Today's episode is all about you as we answer your questions. Welcome to the Must Increase podcast, where we equip you to communicate your message, reach more people, and ultimately increase his name through your church. I am your host, Luke Clayton, and I'm joined, as always, by Bo Snyder, the producer of the podcast. Bo, how's it going?
Good, Luke. Good to be here.
Yeah, and it is great to be back with another episode. Now, we've just finished our 7 Levels of Creative Media podcast series.
Yes.
That went on for about 8 weeks.
Yeah, dude, I really enjoyed that. Once again, we don't do series that often, but when we do, I really enjoy it. We put a lot of time into that, and hopefully that was a help to a lot of people.
Yeah, we do a podcast series once. I think that's the only second one we've actually ever done.
No, I think you're right, yeah.
We did one on Easter back in the spring, and so we usually do, maybe that's a good precedent. We do one every 6 months or so.
Right.
But, hope you enjoyed that, and we got some great feedback as a result of that. And speaking of feedback, that's kind of what this episode is all about.
Yeah, it's a good break. Once again, we take a lot of time to develop some content, and then what's kind of nice is people, they obviously are listening, and they send in questions. And we're like, okay, well, hey, this is great. And we actually get some really good ones today. So today, we're taking the whole time and just going to answer about 5 or 6 good questions that we got. And you know what? We're just going to jump in.
Yeah,
let's
jump into it. Yeah, and of course, we do want to remind you, though, if you ever want to ask us questions, be sure to email podcast@mustincrease.com.
Yes.
You can also, mention us on social media, ask us questions there. That's great as well. And of course, always, we hope you're subscribed to our podcast if you haven't subscribed yet.
Yes.
So be sure to subscribe wherever you're listening or watching, if you happen to be watching on YouTube. And I'm excited to dive into these questions. So let's get going.
And these are really good. I picked out, all of them are good. They are. There's no such thing as a dumb or bad question.
Yeah, we really wish we could answer all of them.
We do. These are pretty prime. This is the first one is from Mark in Georgia. When it comes to social media, should I have one account for my entire church or separate accounts for the different programs of the church? Really, really good question, because this is something that we talked about before, but maybe not as much as we could or should. So this is good. I'm excited about this one.
I think there's a lot of things to consider when you are, just thinking what you should do for your church specifically. I think you got to consider, first of all, demographic. So, for example, churches will have, obviously they have kids ministries, they have maybe teen ministries, maybe young adults, college ministries, and then there may be something like a small group ministry. You've got your different small groups, life connection groups, whatever they're called, a lot of different terms. But basically, the concept is they're breaking up into smaller groups.
Sure. And
I've seen some churches take it to the extreme, and they kind of establish not just a new social media account, but it's almost like a new entity for each small group.
Yeah.
In my opinion, that's a little much. Because by and large, when it comes to small groups, you're kind of reaching the same demographic. You're reaching adults, and I know there's adults at different ages, different stages of life, but so I think that's a little much. But I will say this: so we got to consider, first of all, the demographics, and then the second thing I think you consider is the platform that you're using. Yeah. So let's talk about the difference between Facebook and then kind of everything else. But I mean everything else, I'm really Twitter and Instagram, because it's kind of the main ones.
All right, good way to start off.
So Facebook. You have these different options. You can create a profile, you can create a page, you can create a group. And so the way I see it with Facebook, you need to be having one main page that represents your entire church. So this is like a page that, and really the purpose of this page is let's make that more outreach oriented. We're trying to get people. This is
where people land.
Exactly. It's your landing page that's on Facebook.
Yes.
And then you use the groups feature in Facebook to kind of divide it up from there.
Right.
So if you've got, we've got a kids ministry group. We do have a different group for each each different small group, or like I said, life stage group, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
And then we do have a different, maybe one for the youth ministry and whatever. So that's Facebook. Now, when it comes to Twitter and Instagram, I think it really comes down to demographic. I think because, when it comes to reaching kids or reaching adults, you're obviously going to have a different look and feel with kids stuff. So I don't think it's a bad idea to have a dedicated social media account for kids ministry,
right?
And or maybe for teen ministry.
Sure.
But once again, to go as far as to say, well, I'm going to start a new social media account for every single, different division group program. I think you can get a little bit too specific.
Yeah.
I think divided into 3 to 4 main groups: your adults, maybe your young adults or / college, teens, and then kids. And I think other than that, keep everything, if it doesn't fall into that, for the most part, keep it under your main social media account.
And I would say, Mark, it's probably going to take a little while for you to find that sweet spot. You might, because here's the thing. I mean, if you have certain pages, and there's actually a rule for this. I can't remember what it is, but if you were to have just one page or one account that all the information goes to, you might be posting a lot of things on that page that aren't pertinent to half the people in the church. And even though it's good, okay, the church is active, they're doing things, that's great. But once again, not only is that information not relevant to half the people in your church, definitely not relevant to the community that doesn't go to your church. So just finding that sweet spot of like, okay, what are the major things in my church that are more active, that can have their own page, or this is kind of a sub page, or maybe not even a page at all. So just find that sweet spot. That's, I guess, the best we can give you there.
And it's so like there's really not one good answer for this, because there's so many different. It really depends on you and your church. But I can't emphasize I think Facebook groups is something that people are really missing, and that they tap into the power of it. I've even heard it suggested that if you're a pastor and maybe you're interested in starting a blog, don't start a blog, start a Facebook group. Start a Facebook group where you say, hey, I'm going to share my thoughts and some devotions and stuff. If you get some traction on that, then maybe look into starting the actual blog. But
always start smaller. You can always start small.
Always start for free.
It's less embarrassing to start small and say, hey, I'm going to get bigger and upgrade.
Exactly. So great question there from Mark.
Yeah. Number 2, this is Josh in Alabama. It's a little bit longer, so stay with me here. My church has about 8 different invite cards that we pass out to our community during the outreach times.
Here we go.
Very classic. They look completely different, except for our church name and contact information is on the back of the. I'm really slaughtering this.
We just have to read it, Bo.
I just gotta because I'm so excited to answer. I'm not just focusing on the actual question. I'm gonna start over.
Start it over.
Here we go. My church has about 8 different invite cards that we pass out to our community during our outreach times. Here we go. They look completely different, except for our church name and contact information is on the back, and that stays the same. I feel that 8 is too many. Should we have one card that we pass out no matter what time of the year it is? Now, I'm going to step back and let Luke answer this because I know exactly what he's thinking about this question.
I think we actually touched on this a few episodes ago.
We probably did a little bit.
I think we did. I was in the episode, I think we were talking about, if I remember right, we were talking about either enhance your look or enforcing your brand. I can't remember which one. I want to say it was enforcing your brand because it really applies to both.
Before you get going, I am going to say this. Josh, you are not the only person. I've seen this so many times. The old classic, here, go grab a bunch of tracts or handouts things, and it's like, okay, which one are we supposed to grab? They're very classic to have this problem. So great question.
And the short answer, Josh, is yes, I agree with you. The 8 is entirely too many. And here's the thing. You want to avoid brand confusion because like you said in your question there, they look completely different except for like the common information like our church name. And I've seen this so many times in so many situations. A lot more churches than you might think actually do this. And so here's my opinion. Depending on once again, there's no one. I don't think there's ever one cut and dry answer. But depending on the size of your church and your outreach program and whatnot, I think that you need to have 1 to 2 what we would call year-round promotional pieces. So you've got these are ones that give general information about your church, and they have a consistent look, and then you can bring in, depending on the season, you can maybe add one additional piece that is seasonal, but also is not so different that it detracts from your main brand. So, for example, we're coming up to Christmas. Of course, I think you need to have Christmas-themed outreach. I think that's a great idea, great concept. But you want to make sure that elements like your church logo and your church fonts and these elements of your brand that you've established are very I don't want to say dominant, but they're very noticeable.
Well, here's I just had this example come to me. I'm a big Starbucks guy. I am. You can fault me for that.
I'm a Dunkin's guy. We're at odds at that.
Yeah, you're a Dunkin' Donuts guy. Yeah. But here's the thing. I mean, if you go into Starbucks, you know when they put their Christmas stuff out. You just know right away. Their brand has not changed.
Nope.
Their overall, marketing has not changed. Just a little bit of reds,
Yep.
a little bit of whites
Yep.
and greens. Like, oh, okay, it's the Christmas feel.
Yep.
Everything looks the exact same when it comes to branding, but just it's a seasonal thing. Okay, this
Yeah.
is obviously changed.
Yeah.
Just kind of take that approach maybe.
Yeah,
with,
yeah.
with the holiday thing.
Yeah,
maybe,
yeah,
or
yeah.
something
So
like
once
that.
again, it doesn't matter what you're doing. No matter, you always want your brand. If your church has a brand, you want that incorporated. You want that integrated into your designs in one way or another. And you want, like for example, if what it means is, hey, we make sure we have our church logo on here and whatever. I think what it comes down to though is just don't have too much of that brand confusion going on. So don't have, 8 too many. I would say 1 to 2 year round, and then add an additional one, seasonal one, 3 to 4 times a year.
Right. Because last comment on that confusion thing is when someone does, because we leave outreach cards, we put them in the community, we leave them, places on boards and things. When somebody sees it, they should know exactly what that church is.
Yep.
They should know, oh, I've seen that before. And then all of a sudden, oh, I thought they had another card. They look on the back, and there should be no confusion, know exactly who it is. That's the goal.
Yep. Yeah, the goal is in your community. You want your church brand to be recognizable.
Yep.
You want it to be, you talk about Starbucks. I'll say this real quick. It's been a few years ago now, but Starbucks, if you notice, out of their main sign, they removed actually Starbucks coffee, the title, from it.
Right.
Now, when you drive by a Starbucks, you just see their logo because their logo is so iconic, so recognizable. And though your church may not ever be able to get to that point, I think it's something that's awesome to strive for.
Yeah.
And let's see if we can brand our church so well
Right.
that it just becomes that a simple glance at a logo or a print piece becomes recognizable. And we've seen that happen with churches. It's pretty cool when you get to that point in your community.
Right. So, Josh, great question there. Yeah. Good luck with that endeavor. I'm sure you'll come up with some pushback, but push through, please. All right. We have a new listener in Texas.
Well, thank you.
This is from Kelly in Texas. I just started listening to your podcast and was wondering what is more important, a good website or maintaining good social media accounts? Once again, I picked 5 good ones. This is a really good one.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start off with this.
Go ahead.
When it comes to websites, this is the biggest difference, I would say, is you can make a good website. Let's just say, for example, you created a really good-looking website at the beginning of 2019. Okay, so it looks brand new, looks modern, looks solid. You can leave that for a decent amount of time. If you don't put a lot of things on there that need to be changed every week, you can let it sit longer. Mm-hmm. But social media accounts, if someone goes on there, they know immediately when's the last time you put something on. Okay, if I went to a church's website, if it looks good, looks new, I don't know if they updated it yesterday or 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. I really don't. Mm-hmm. But with social media, they know immediately how much attention you paid to it, how much fresh content you put out. So what's more important? I mean, of course, Luke might disagree with me here, but off the bat, I would say you need to put a little more attention to your social media accounts on a regular basis. But of course, that good website does need to be in place.
Yeah, and I do agree with that. And something to understand about the websites and social media, when the internet was first introduced and first becoming popular, obviously the foundation of the internet is websites. And so before the social media boom, if you will, back in the late 2000s, the only web presence you could have was a website. And so back then, it was appropriate to say, hey, you know what? I'm going to put every new thing about our church on this website and everything. Well, now that's because people were going to the internet. And so we say, okay, people are going there. They're hanging out on the internet. We're going to put this information on the website. Well, now people are still going to the internet, but specifically they're going to social media. They're hanging out, if you will, on social media. So that's where we want to put all of our current, like you were saying, Bo, our current updates about what's going on. Whereas with the website, it doesn't need to be updated. It needs to look good. It needs to look nice. Yeah. But the webs, and we could dive into this a whole other topic, but we have alluded to this before. But websites today have a completely different purpose than they did even 10 years ago.
Right.
And so, I would agree. You need to be updating social media daily. You need to have a daily it's so much easier said than done.
Yeah, it's
but
a big
you need
undertaking.
to have a daily presence on social media, daily engagement, because once again, it is where people are hanging out. Whereas with a website, you probably need to weekly at least check your website, make sure everything's good, but
make sure links are connected, make sure
nothing's broken and all that. But that's I would we're on the same page with that because social media there.
Good deal. All right, number 4, moving right along here. Caleb in Ohio says, I'm in charge of keeping our website current at church.
Another website question?
Yeah, I guess this kind of goes along with the same thing. How often should the content be updated on a website, and how much of the website should remain the same year-round?
Okay.
I guess we touched a little bit, but we'll take a few minutes
we can dive into the website aspect. Some of that stuff I was saying, I can touch on a little bit of that now. Kind of the same thing. Going back for that mindset of social media is where people are really hanging out. The purpose of the website, the church website, has changed from being a hub of information to where now it's a billboard for your church for people who've never, because think about it. If I'm going to visit something, what am I going to do? I'm going to go look online first. Before I physically go somewhere, in most cases, I'm going to look up a review. I'm going to visit a website, something like that. So that, you got to keep that in mind. Mm-hmm. So here's what I think about as far as how often you should update the content on the website. I think you should update it. It depends on your calendar and everything, but pretty much anytime you're going to have maybe an event, something that's geared towards outreach, put that on your website. Yep. So Christmas, Easter, some type of big event that you're having that's special. Other than that, your website needs to have the mission of communicating just some basic messaging about your church, and then have the mission of let's get people to come. So we're going to give our service times and our location. Your service times and location need to be dominant on your website. If it takes somebody a little bit, longer than a few seconds to find that, then you've got to change that. So as far as updating though with special content, like I said, depends on the nature of what you're wanting to update, but you don't need to put up there like, oh, hey, we're having, some random, small group Bible study.
Right.
No, all that stuff. Use social media for that.
Yes, of course. All right. I'm going to go on. We got a couple more here. Number 5, once again, a little bit longer, so stay with me here. This is from Stephen in Georgia. I'm on staff as a youth pastor and music director at my church, and our church branding is simply old and outdated. I love the honesty so far.
Thank you.
The powers that be don't see the importance in spending money on these type of materials. I personally have a little experience with graphic design, so my question is, how can I start implementing my ideas in my church? First of all, once again, Stephen, you are not alone. There are a lot of people feeling this way. But I would say off the bat, one thing you do have in your favor is you do have a little experience, it sounds like, a little bit of skill to use here. So I'm gonna jump the gun here. Luke will probably give you a little bit more of a fancy, eloquent answer.
So
this would be my opinion. Just start doing it.
Yeah.
I mean, to be honest, if you have the power, if you are obviously in a position to where you're in leadership to an extent and you have things that you're in charge of, and if you have the talent and the time to start, doing a little bit, start doing it.
Yeah.
For whether it's a life stage class or something on your social media pages, just start slowly kind of implementing these things, making things look a little bit sharper, and over time, people will notice and appreciate it, I would think.
Oh, yeah. I was going to say, here, calling back to the 7 levels, start for free, right there at level 1. Just start where you are with what you have to make it happen. Especially, you've really got a huge advantage if you've already got some experience. That's a huge step that you have already taken there. So, just dive in there, see what type of free resources you can get a hold of. I will tell you this. Head over to, this is something that we've been, actually, I don't think we've even introduced this yet, but I'm going to introduce it now.
Introduce it now.
At least not to the podcast audience. This is why we've started providing monthly graphics completely free. So if you head over to mustincrease.com/monthly, you can subscribe to receive a new collection of free graphics every month. And they're relevant to the current season and to the current time of year, what's coming up. And that just comes every month. Usually it's within the first 2 weeks of the month we send the new content. And so this would be a great resource for you there, Stephen, is just free graphics like that. And we're not the only place that offers free graphics, but and just go out there, find it. And but just do what you can with what you have. Start for free, and you can do it. Just make it happen. And once you've proven yourself there, and you've said, hey, look, you go to the powers that be. Say, look what I was able to do without really spending any money, and that I could do just myself. Imagine what we could do if we invested a little bit more. Then you move to level 2. You increase your investment.
And the last thing I would say there is, if you can get certain pastors and church leaders, they don't know what looks good, or they don't know what they want until they do see it. So if you do come up with something and they go, oh, wow, okay, now I can see the value behind this because it does look sharp. It does bring a little more value to whatever it might be. So good work there, Stephen. Seriously.
Yeah, I like that, Stephen.
Number 6. This is Chase, right here in Tennessee, actually. Reading this question makes me happy because you'll see it in a second. After listening to your 7-level series,
good job, Chase.
So he's listening out there. I have finally convinced our church finance guy to budget $200 a month toward marketing and outreach. So I'm standing up and applauding right now. This is awesome stuff. So I'm just thinking of all the courage and just what he had to go through to make this happen. So he says, where is the best place to start investing this money? And he puts, we already have a decent website. Okay, so that's a good detail to have there. I'm going to let you take this because, this is a little bit more of what you can consult churches on, what your budget starts small and... What do you think?
Chase, once again, glad to hear that you're listening and that you have been able to get this far. And I know that $200 a month, that can seem like a lot, but it also can seem like a little.
Sure.
Like, hey, it's great to start somewhere. And so, I'm going to say, and once again, it's very hard, just with reading the question, I don't know your full background circumstances. You did mention that you already have a good website, so that's good to hear. And so I would say, start somewhere in terms of your design. That's where I would start. If you've already got a good website and you think it's good, I would start with your design. So maybe now you can start moving into level 3 where you start making a plan. So you've increased your investment. Now you can start making a plan. So maybe take an evaluation of everything you have going on there, your different promo materials, outreach materials, if you have screens in your auditorium, the graphics in there, and just start using that. So maybe you go online and you subscribe to some type of a paid service that offers graphics. Maybe you yourself are interested in learning more design. Well, take some of that money, and I would recommend like getting something like Photoshop and actually paying for quality software there.
Right.
Maybe you do take that step and hire a designer, hire someone to help you out. To do the design for you, something like that. But I mean, once again, I don't know your whole context of the fact that your website is okay.
Right.
But I would say look into improving your design elements and take an evaluation. And start to determine your action steps from there.
This is the last piece I would give toward that, is you can look at 4 or 5 different things when it comes to your marketing and your outreach and say, there might be, to make yourself a little chart, there might be a few things I can actually do that for free. I can, post some things on social media for free or whatever. But let's say I do want a custom-made design. I can't do that for free. Yeah. I'm going to have to purchase that from somebody or, buy Adobe Suite or something. So go through, don't spend money on something that you can do for free. But there are certain things like it is going to cost money no matter which way you slice it. So just figure out your, I guess maybe, what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of prioritize. Prioritize, I guess.
Create a list of priorities.
Yes, create a list of priorities and go from there.
Yeah. I think that's great insight as well. Because like I said, with an investment like that, you're going to find anytime you're given a budget, you figure out how to spend all of it in most cases. So there's still going to be areas where you're going to have to handle some of the work yourself. But this is a great step, and I think it only goes up from here. So that's awesome. Thanks for that question.
Well, that's all I have, and we're really just about out of time. But that was fun. That was some seriously solid questions.
So once again, please email us questions, podcast@mustincrease.com, or do it on social media. Mention us there and ask questions. We really do enjoy doing this from time to time.
Well, I was going to say before, we periodically do series. Same thing with these. We periodically, every 4 or 5 months, try to gather a bunch of good ones and just kind of try to reply to those that are listening out there.
So we appreciate that, and all of you who have subscribed and who are sharing this, leaving reviews, all of that we appreciate Appreciate it so much. So, hey, well, next time on the podcast, we're going to talk about getting into the holiday season. Okay, so we're here. We're headed into November. Starts next week, or actually this weekend, and so we are headed into starting to think about Thanksgiving, starting to plan for Christmas, and so we're going to start getting in the Christmas spirit a little bit next week. So be sure to join us next week, and always a shout out to our associate producer Jonas Clayton for his help in producing the podcast, the producer himself, Mr. Bo Snyder, and for all of us here, we'd like to thank you and hope you join us again on the Must Increase podcast, where we equip you to communicate your message, reach more people, and ultimately increase his name through your church.